Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about the recent announcement of film director James Gunn and producer Peter Safran officially signed to oversee all movie, television and animation content for DC, and what this could mean going forward for the DC cinematic universe. Now there could be spoilers throughout concerning all current and previous movies and television shows within DC, so just beware when going into this overall video. So I'm sure you are all aware of who James Gunn is, but just in case anybody is watching who doesn't know, James Gunn is the long-time director, most famous for helming the Guardians of the Galaxy movies to massive mainstream success within the MCU. He has of course most recently migrated over to DC, directing both the Suicide Squad sequel in 2021 and also the Peacemaker series, and you can check out my reviews of both of those shows and movies within the channel, and I'll leave some links within the description. As for Peter Safran, he is a British-American film producer with a long-standing career, and he's been involved in projects such as the Conjuring franchise, the Aquaman and Shazam movies, and he's also involved in the upcoming Blue Beetle movie. Now it was confirmed yesterday on the 25th of October 2022 that both Gunn and Safran will act as co-CEOs, assuming control over the movie and television content from November the 1st, 2022. The division of the DCEU will now be rebranded as DC Studios, and that's something that we'll all have to get used to when talking about DC projects in the future. Now in terms of the overall hierarchy, Gunn will focus on the creative aspects of the content in terms of directing and story and narrative, while Safran will handle the business and production elements, so this will involve more release dates, budgeting, marketing, etc. Both parties will report directly to Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav, and will also work closely with WB bosses such as Pamela Abdi. And overall, this will be a 4-year deal. Now, I've previously talked about James Gunn and his involvement within the DC cinematic universe, and I'll leave a link in the description for that previous video. And in that content, I did talk about how I still remain unconvinced about whether he is the right man to helm the DC universe. I still believe that his wacky, comedic, more R-rated sensibilities can work for certain DC characters. I think his style was kept in check when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and this was because of Marvel's more family-friendly orientated audience. Now in those films he was able to include a lot of his humour and style, especially with the aesthetics and also lots of soundtrack, but at the same time he was obviously constrained within the boundaries set by Disney. But this type of style would be certainly good for the likes of a Green Lantern film, especially when we look at the cosmic elements and how he handled those for the Guardians films. Also another character I think would be suited to James Gunn would be Booster Gold, and also possibly the Flash. But definitely his style and tone is definitely not for the likes of Superman, Batman or Wonder Woman. And we asked the question as to whether he has enough acknowledgement of the DC characters to differentiate which tone and vision works best for each individual property. Will he purely be more of a creative visionary, or will he actually direct some movies himself? I'd like to think he'd be better off just organising projects as opposed to directing movies, because directing films, especially big budget superhero projects, takes a lot of energy and effort, and as a result he would get far too distracted in the construction of those films, and this would of course take away from his duties as monitoring the overall universe and where it's going forward. And can he make that adjustment to being far more of an overseer, because we have to remember that he is first and foremost a creative filmmaker. That's what he enjoys doing the most, being involved in a singular vision. Would he be just as infused in managing multiple projects, all with different tones and nuances? We then have to look at the current status of the DC projects and what will Gunn decide to do with them going forward. We've been focusing all week on the release of Black Adam and its overall box office performance. And what does Gunn's reinstatement here mean for Dwayne Johnson and his supposed plans for the DCEU going forward? Will they work together in the future? Will this mean Black Adam is a one and done depending on its box office? James Gunn will clearly override any intentions of Dwayne Johnson if they differ to his overall plans for the DC projects. We then talk about Henry Cavill's Superman, who recently confirmed his return to the franchise. How will James Gunn handle him coming back? Will he continue the tone of Man of Steel, or will he take a far more different approach, giving us a far more optimistic, hopeful Superman that I believe should have been done in the first place? And if that's the case, how will Gunn treat the reaction of the Snyder fans? His vision and tone, as we all know, is very much different to that of Zack Snyder. James Gunn's vision is far more playful as opposed to Zack Snyder, who is far more dour and deconstructive. So what would the backlash be if Gunn decides to depart from Zack's vision? Will James Gunn actually care about the ongoing opinion online? Will he understand that the fan base online is only a small portion in regard to overall general audience? Will he wait for the likes of Aquaman 2, Shazam 2 and Blue Beetle, which are already ready to go? Will he wait for those movies to come out and then completely reboot the universe? And if he does any soft or hard reboots, how will he communicate that to the audience, especially the general viewers? How does he make that transition work organically in terms of a story? How will he handle that change in terms of the overall continuity, making sure everything connects and makes sense? Does he reboot completely after the Flash movie comes out? Does he even entertain the possibility of keeping Ezra Miller on after the Flash? We all know that both James Gunn and Ezra Miller have been figures of huge controversy surrounding posting on social media and other misdemeanors. Will James Gunn somehow find sympathy with Ezra Miller? And given the fact that he was given himself a second chance to come back after being sacked by Disney, will he empathise with Ezra Miller's situation and try to offer him the same second chance that he got to come back within his own career? That would certainly cause a lot of debate and discussion online for sure. We then talk about David Zaslav and overall, how will he react to James Gunn? Will he give him complete free rein in terms of budget and resources? What happens if the first 2-3 projects of James Gunn's reign flop or underperform? Will Zaslav be just as cutthroat as what he's been previously concerning the DC animation and television? So there's so much to consider here without even speculating both about what will go on in terms of the TV and animation content. So I've taken a look at so many social media reactions, and many are super hyped and perhaps super desperate, I could say, to push this announcement as projecting some sort of new dawn, some sort of new era, promised land for DC, and how it's possibly going to take over Marvel in the future. I've stated multiple times that at this stage that is practically an impossibility given Marvel and how much success and connectivity that they've managed to build with audiences over the last 10 to 12 years. So when you actually think about the logistics of this announcement, what this role will require, James Gunn's tone and style, making that transition from the Snyderverse and all the other facets that comes alongside it, this is a very massive job, and per my attitude before previously regarding DC announcement, we really have to just wait and see on how the first couple of projects perform under James Gunn's rule, both in terms of box office and also audience perception and reaction. Realistically, it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years before we see a James Gunn helm project where he is in charge. As I mentioned before, we've still got all of those current DC projects to get through, and I think, to be honest, they really are going to wait and see what happens with that Flash movie, the reaction and the performance, and deal with all of the potential fallout from that film, and then decide where to take the universe next going forward. I think that would be the best strategy overall. I will still stand by for what I've said in many videos, that I do believe that we need a complete reboot to cut ties completely with the Snyderverse and then start afresh, and that's when he can really make his own impression without having to worry about previous continuity or canon. And if that situation arises, just be upfront and honest with the fans and audiences so that we all know where we stand and we all know where we're going forward, and then we can push on to finally getting some semblance of where the DC is going forward. Hopefully we can get a Superman that everybody can connect to and be on board with, and then we can take the next steps going forward from there. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings on the recent announcement of James Gunn and Peter Safran being assigned to be co-CEOs and visionaries for the DC projects in terms of movies, televisions and animations going forward. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you actually believe now in this announcement? Do you think there's actually some weight and substance to it? Or do you think this is going to be another false vision, another false dawn, if you like, for the DC cinematic universe? Do you think this will end up crashing and burning? And do you think we need again to just completely reboot the whole thing and start once more? Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, if we have further announcements regarding the James Gunn era of DC, I will of course provide more videos and coverage as those announcements take place. And also let me know in the comments your thoughts on this, and if you would like to see me cover any other movies or television or any other hot topics surrounding movies or entertainment or culture in general, drop me a suggestion within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on those subject matter in the future. Please also hit and like those subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like that in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.